Welcome to Backstage Pass on the Boise Beat, the show where we peel back the curtain and dive deep into the minds of artists shaping today's music scene. I'm your host, Gordie Tamayo, and today we have an incredible lineup joining us. We're thrilled to welcome the dynamic and ever-evolving hip-hop artist Kurtis Hoppie, known for his unique blend of lyricism and melody that captivates audiences far and wide. Alongside him, we have Derek Ryan, an unforgettable powerhouse whose unique voice is reminiscent of an Andre 3000 and DMX collision, and Spencer Boliou, a singer, producer, and multi-instrumentalist whose versatility and depth continues to inspire hearts across various musical landscapes. Together, they form the trio of Upside Down Kingdom, and they're here to give us an insider's look into their creative journeys, inspirations, and the driving force behind their unforgettable music. All right, fellas, welcome to Backstage Pass on the Boise Beat. I want to give you guys an opportunity to share with listeners today a little bit of your backstory about who you are, because each and every one of you has been in the game for just a minute. You've been producing, writing, putting music out for a while, but I know that has changed over the seasons, right? And so things have changed based upon your growth, your maturity, both as an artist and as a person. And I want to ask you this question, and we can just kickstart it to whoever wants to answer this first, but what was a moment that you realized that music was your calling? Like, what would you say was a moment or a time in your walk that you would say, man, you just knew this is what you were supposed to be doing?
When did I know that music was definitely my calling? When I tried to put it down, you
Mm,
know, I had tried to make a name for myself. Uh, Always kind of had an ambition, like a lot of young kids, to be famous. Whether it was basketball, or first I want to be an NBA player, then I want to be a martial artist,
mm,
and but music was always kind of there, and started to kind of create an idol. Really, is how I see it.
mm.
Watched a lot of the pop culture. I thought I was like the next Tupac or
Sure.
somebody like that, you know. And I got lost in the culture. I didn't kind of get lost in the culture. I got lost in the culture. My life was in shambles. It was a wreck. Uh, Opened up for a lot of well-known artists. Made it to a lot of big stages. Traveled the country a little bit. L.A., Hollywood, all of that stuff, and kind of got a taste of it. And I tasted and I saw that it was not good.
Mm, mm,
And so I decided to answer the call that the Holy Spirit had on me. My whole life, I've grown up in the church, but kind of I would drink to quiet the voice of my convictions.
mm,
And I only saw, I was in a desperate place. Um, I was scared to death of what would happen to me if I kept going down that road, and I didn't think that I had what it took to change.
mm,
So when I cried out to God, I ended up, I said, if you change me, everybody will know it was you, and many will be led to you. And I actually put down my music. I didn't, I said, tear down all the idols. I don't care. I don't need that. I don't need anybody to know who I am. I don't need any accolades or praise from man. And I put down the music, and I kind of told God if he ever wanted me to make music again, to make it very clear to me that he wanted me to make music, then he did. Um,
mm.
I remember laying a fleece down and telling my sister he would have to show me beyond a shadow of a doubt. And through some circumstances and confirmations, I believe that he's given me a chance uh, at redemption, you know.
Hmm.
So
Gotcha. And Spencer, I mean, you've been playing music, singing, right? You've been
mhm.
doing this for your whole life almost, I want to say, right?
Yeah, no, my whole life for real. Yeah. Yeah, I know for me it was one of those things where I grew up homeschooled. So I I always felt like I was less than everyone else because I'm like the awkward homeschooler
Mm,
who's never gonna be anything. So I would always be trying to like prove myself to everyone, right?
mm,
And I always loved music. So kind of what happened was I also had great parents, and they really wanted me to be successful and make money, but also follow my dreams. And
Mhm.
so I kind of internalized what they didn't even communicate to me, which was what I thought they were saying was music's not responsible. You shouldn't do that. And that kind of led me to, which was my fault, that led me to going through all of college and even a year after that, not even doing almost anything with music until I had basically tried getting a pre-med degree. And then
Really?
after
Yeah.
that, I I did a year working at my church that I grew up in, doing our music and leading our youth and everything. And didn't get the sense that I was being like called to do that full time. So I
Mhm.
was like, I'll try music. And I just prayed about it. I was like, God, stop me if you don't want me to do this. And basically, as soon as I said I'm going to try this, immediately outside of my control, through my friends, I met Kurtis, who had already been doing music for quite a while at that point, since at least like 2015, 16. You say
Mm.
right, Kurtis?
Yeah.
And this was 2020 when I met
Oh,
Kurtis.
okay.
So yeah, he was instrumental in meeting him. He helped me record my first song, get it
Mhm.
mixed and mastered professionally, all of that. And
Yeah.
then was able to offer the affirmation to say, hey, like I see you as like a peer in a lot of ways. Obviously, you don't have experience, but he could see like the gifting and
Yeah.
be like, okay. So that was huge for me in getting to actually feel confident about taking music seriously. And
Mhm.
it's just kind
Yeah.
of gone from there, really.
Yeah. What an incredible thing to have people around you that can notice, not just notice the gifting, but also help champion you to
Mhm.
pursue it, man. Because it can get wearisome sometimes, right? When you got a dream, something that's sparked inside of you, and it can get choked out really easy by outside pressures, by competing voices, by various things. And Curtis, so you were already doing music sometime before you crossed paths with Spencer. Talk to me
Yeah.
about your jump into getting into this lane, and did you have similar experiences where people were championing you, or did you have something polar opposite?
Sort of. I didn't really feel anything that I was like supposed to do music in reality. Like
Mhm.
nothing about me really. Maybe deep down, because I sang in choir and stuff. Was there something saying like, dude, you need to make music and you need to go and be this big type of artist? I
Mm,
actually was so uninterested. Uh,
really?
because I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to play video games. I
Mm,
wanted to smoke weed and party. And I didn't like the responsibility of having to actually try to do something.
well, yeah.
And so for me, my brother, if anybody was championing me, it would be, say, my brother who was an artist. So
Mm,
he'd like, hey man, you should try to make a song with me. And I made a song with him, and they're like, dude, you're pretty good at this.
mm,
And then I like, whatever. And then I
mhm,
had some friends that I would freestyle with in high school. And they're like, dude, you're pretty good at freestyling. I'm like, yeah. I just want to play video games. I'm not too interested in all this type of stuff. It's good for you, but not for me.
mm,
Um, and then my brother saw the potential in me, and he went out and bought me some recording studio, like equipment, microphone, interface, all that type of stuff. He was like, dude, you should do this. You start making music. I'm like, yeah. I don't think so. And that studio equipment just sat in my closet for like 2.5 years
mm,
because I just was I just had no motivation. I was like,
mm,
there's one Eminem and it's not me.
mm,
And I'm not trying to be that guy. I like listening to rap. I like listening to music in general. I love music. I just didn't feel uh, pulled or called to try and make it my life, you know?
yeah.
And then one day I was driving home. I was dealing with a lot of depression, anxiety, and all this type of stuff that was going through me. And I was driving home from work one day, and I just felt a very big hit of that depression hit me, and started thinking that like maybe my family would be better off without me. Maybe, if I was dead, then everybody would be fine. Everybody
Mm,
would be better. And
mm,
I like looked at a tree and I was like, how easy would it be for me to just pull this steering wheel?
mm,
And I felt what I believe is the first time I ever heard from God. This is before I'm a Christian or anything. And God told me that I wasn't the piece that had no place, or I wasn't the piece that was destroying everyone's happiness and their joy and potential and all this type of stuff, but I was the missing piece. And I wasn't being there. I wasn't doing anything that had any value within my life. And I felt like God told me that I had a unique way of thinking, and that he would be willing to use it. And I felt like God told me to go home and to start making music at that time. And every day of my life, I felt like I was supposed to be playing video games. And that day, I didn't. I felt led to go grab that studio out of my closet and hook it up and start making music. And I felt like what I was supposed to do was to make music that was coming against the evils of the music industry. And then that became my purpose. I never had purpose in music because I'm like, I'm just going to be rapping for whatever reason. And then in that moment, I felt my purpose was to actually go to war with what the industry really was. And that was the moment I made my first song, showed it to my mom, and she goes, "This is you?" "No, this isn't you. This isn't you." I'm like, "Yeah, no, that's me, Mom." And she was like, "Okay, go for it." And there was no turning back from there.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. So you all of a sudden were compelled to not just make music, but you had a cause now, right? Like there was a actual cause behind the reason for doing the music, which in and of itself, that seems like an empowering, not just motivator, but there's something else like deeply intrinsic about that that says, hey, I'm on mission now. Now I
Yeah.
really got a purpose to live. Hence the reason why I'm not turning the steering wheel towards the tree. That's
Yeah.
pretty insightful. You mentioned that you had you had felt that God was telling you something to the effect of you have something unique about the way you think and construct music. And I want to unpack that a little bit when it comes to the creative process for making music, because your music has changed over the years. But you particularly, Curtis, and I want to jump over to you guys about you mixing like the melodic element with your lyricism. You got a really unique blend of how you do that together and how you're able to craft different styles of music and still make it appealing to similar audiences, but it's also branching out and capturing different people as well. Talk to me about the thought process behind when you make something that's maybe, geared towards somebody who's into lo-fi versus somebody who likes deep bass drums versus somebody who likes something a little bit more in depth in the lyrics themselves. Like, what's the creative process you have for making a track?
I think for me, I've always just been a fan of music. I was never like, dude, I am fully invested in rap.
Mm-hmm.
I was never fully invested in anything. I went through so many seasons of my life of trying to find myself that I went through, you name it. You name the style of music, and I had a season where I
Mm-hmm.
was loving that style of music because I just didn't know who I was, and I was trying to find who I was. So now when I came into music, my brother was a rapper, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
easiest way to make music for me was find a beat and rap on it. And as I've grown as an artist, I found that, man, I don't just like to rap. Sometimes I like to sing. Sometimes I like to do this. Sometimes I like to do that. And what I've come to this realization is the type of music and the style of music that I make is the way I'm feeling in a moment, in the way that God's calling me to make it in that time. Because if I try to keep making the same exact type of music over and over again, I'm
Yeah.
like super ADHD, and I'll get bored of it, and I'm like, okay, and then I'll just like not want to make music. So in order for me to keep making music, I have to just continually stretch myself and make something that makes me excited.
Yeah.
And I'm believing it's going to do the same for others. But then when it comes to things, something like the lo-fi stuff and stuff like that, I was inspired by Spencer. So I've also got other people around me who are like, dude, I like this type of music. And for me, I just jump in and I just do what I'm feeling in that moment,
Yeah.
and usually it comes out, and, God does what I feel like he wants me to do in that moment, because I just like to put the music I'm making in his hands and let him speak through me. And I do that by, while I'm writing, if I feel something I shouldn't be writing, I don't write it. You know, and if I do, you know, if I hear something in my head, hey, I think you should do something scripturally for this. I'm like, okay, well, what's the scripture? You know, and that's kind of like how this new song we just put out, Clean Heart, that was almost the whole entire song was based off of a scripture, my verse at least, and in his verse too. And like, and that's just how it kind of, how I create music.
Derek, how about you, man? I want to ask you, because obviously I kind of threw out a pun initially at the beginning about, you know, you having this voice that some might say is reminiscent of an Andre 3000 colliding with the DMX. And you might get people referencing certain things, but comparisons aside, right? You do have a very unique way of how you layer your words together, and it's very poetic, is how I see it, right? Even in this latest track that you dropped, when you're listening to that, I hear it, and it's poetry. You know, it's beautiful how it's strung together. Like, how would you say that your style has changed over the years, and how does your creative process come into play when you're penning a track?
I appreciate that. Yeah, I entitled my music Soul Poetics because just poetry from the soul. But growing up biracial, I struggled with identity and played a lot of basketball. I ended up getting into the culture of hip hop because that was very, basketball and hip hop kind of went hand in hand for me. Through hip hop, you know, just getting introduced to like Tupac and all these other rappers. Andre 3000 was one of my favorite. Common was one of my favorite. DMX. I kind of was drawn more towards the deeper lyrics and just the rawness of emotion and saying what's on your mind. And it just led me through a journey of self-exploration. When I gave my life to Christ, it opened up more opportunities because my whole life, like, I was drawn towards the hip hop culture, but my sister and I, as kids, we would listen to like Temptations and Wind and Fire and just different kinds of music. Some rock, I liked a lot of different kinds of music, but I never saw myself struggling with my identity. I never saw myself as being able to do those kinds of music. I felt like that was for them. I like this sound. I'd like some Linkin Park. I'd like some different kind of music. I just like good music. Didn't matter what it was, just good music. And if I felt like it was authentic, through finding myself, finding my identity in Christ, and linking with Kurtis and linking with Spencer, my style has evolved. I found out that, you know, I would have some singing in there before because Andre would do it and Outkast would do it. I mean, DMX and Pac would even do it. And so just there's kind of like a singing rapper kind of thing going with 50 Cents and all of that kind of stuff. But to actually stretch myself, artists, Kurtis has really pushed me a lot, you know, as far as, and Spencer as well. So I started to say, oh, hold on, man, I kind of got a voice that I kind of found my little vocal tones that I like for choruses or for singing or whatever. And so I'm still evolving as that goes. But as far as the lyrics go, that they always, those mean a lot to me. I always want to be authentic, and I always the kind of like Kurtis, like the culture pushes so much negativity, and I always knew that deep inside my heart.
Sure.
But I didn't fight the culture. Like I would have moments of conviction, like this is wrong. Like what this whole thing is wrong. But I found my voice through Christ. And now it's like I'm unapologetic because I've seen the poison that they put in the waters and how it affected my life.
Yeah.
how it affects others. And I've kind of got a behind the scenes. I've seen behind the curtain going on in that industry, and I want to expose the lies as well. So just kind of combating evil, and also just letting people know that they're not alone. I suffer with depression as well, and all kind of other stuff. So
Yeah.
the gamut of human emotions, and letting people know that they're not alone, that that they haven't gone too far down that dark path. And hey, if he could change me, he could change everybody else. And most importantly, I believe all of our collective purpose is to expand the kingdom of God and to speak life and see lives changed.
Yeah. And thinking through a couple things that you just dropped there in relation to being unapologetic about where you're currently at and your beliefs here, and using music as an instrument for that, because it's no surprise and it's no secret that music's very powerful in the way that it changes a culture, in the way that it changes hearts and minds. And we can all attest to growing up in an era where music has drastically influenced the way that we live, we breathe, we dress, the way that we talk, the way that we look at the world in general. And as a whole, you mentioned something about seeing behind the curtain, and you got to see a little bit of the poison that was in the water. And you being a dad, even a granddad now, right? Like, you're looking at that from a different lens now and seeing, hey, this didn't just impact me, but now it's impacting my lineage potentially here. And so now I got a different mission. I'm gonna ask a kind of an elephant in the room question, if you would. And that's, if you could change one thing about the industry as a whole, kind of a loaded topic or loaded question, like, what would that be? If it was one thing you could change about the industry, what would that be?
That's a deep question.
I would say personally, just right off the top, first thing that comes to mind is, I would love for the industry to really just support what is good, right? So kind of to be like, oh man, I love that this guy's great lyrically and his sound is great and he's very talented, and oftentimes they'll shut us down because we believe in Jesus, or they'll silence things that go against their agenda, which obviously that makes sense, and it's basically impossible for us to just stop that, because that'd be like, hey devil, how would you like to just support Jesus Christ, and he hates us, so why would he? So the things that I would love to change, it really, I don't know how much we can change in the depths of the foundation of the industry, but I think we can change it in the hearts of the masses, right? Through things like TikTok, Instagram, Reels, YouTube Shorts, because I would say they don't discriminate. They show and push your content out if it's good. The whole world can see content about Jesus through these platforms. And so the industry might not show love, but the people will eat what they want to eat if they have access to the table. And so that's kind of how I see TikTok, Instagram, Shorts, these places, because you can go out, make a song, make some content, put it on the table, and see if the people want to eat it. And if the people eat it, the algorithm pushes it. Right? So if it keeps pushing and pushing and pushing, you can reach the whole entire world through something like this in a way that we can't do by going out. I could do a concert every day for 500 people and reach less people than I could from one reel that makes an impact on the world.
I definitely want to jump in on that one. I would say idolatry. If you look at everything on TV, American Idol, there's idols everywhere. And as a kid, I felt like if I could get on the Disney Channel, you know, you used to watch Mickey Mouse Club or any of that stuff, or if I could be on TV, life would be better. If I felt like I didn't fit in anywhere, so I used to have daydreams in class about either being famous or saving everybody, and then everybody would love me. I really had some insecurities I was dealing with, and I think that kind of fueled my desire to make music. I always had something deep inside, but I would not to focus on me, but to focus on the question, idolatry. I believe that we're always taught as kids to strive to be excellent, and excellence is good, but fame can really, I mean, you see people do crazy things for fame. And whether we're in the faith music, faith genre, or secular, it's tempting. It's always tempting. I mean, you see what the devil did after Jesus fasted. He tempted him with, I'll give you this whole world, or throw yourself off of here and prove yourself, or turn these stones into bread. It's the pride of life where I want to prove something. I don't want the motivation of the music to focus on how great I am, but rather to be unified. Let us be one body in Christ. Let us humble ourselves. Let us be salt. What good is salt if it's lost its flavor? I was just listening earlier to a little message from a podcast where the guy was talking about salt and what it was used for. It was used for cleaning and disinfecting things, or it was also used for fertilizer because they were getting salt from the Dead Sea. And so it was used as a fertilizer to make good things grow. And so what I would want to see is to tear down the idols, and for there to be a saltiness in this music where it's more ministering to all of our souls. And I want to see people do well as well. Like Kurtis said, I think that they should support that. I think that the more that, and God is doing that.
Are you thinking the Christian industry or the entire industry, Derek?
I'm thinking the entire industry. I mean, as far as I have in my transformation, Kurtis knows that we have a lot of deep, and Spencer knows that we have a lot of in-depth conversations. I just want to follow God with my whole heart, like all of us, I believe, do. But a lot of times, like in the faith-based industry, we could see things that look like the world, right? And I don't want that to be the case. But also, it's real easy to see someone succeeding and to sit on the judgment seat, because if you're succeeding, if light's put on you, we're flawed humans. You're gonna see some flaws. If I talk long enough, you see a flaw. And so I think that comes with what Kurtis said as far as supporting what we're doing. Like, you're not gonna see a perfect person in me. But if the dope dealer can get on and make millions and do all this stuff and be successful, we need to be all right. So I'll say it like this, and then I'm done. The guy that was talking about salt this morning, he said that a lady was talking about how she was at a law firm and she was the only believer, and then she got another opportunity at a Christian firm, and she went there and she was so happy about it, and the guy was like, "Ah, man," and she was like, why are you responding like that?" He said, "You're telling me that you were the only Christian there, and now who's there representing Christ?" Like, to be salt, they say that if 5% of the culture is Christian, it will affect what's around it. And so I would say tear down the idols, not lose our saltiness, but like Kurtis said, support the good, support what we're doing. Not perfect. You can find some flaws in my theology, I'm sure. We won't see each other eye to eye, but man, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. So it says to pray for more workers. So.
Yeah. And Spencer, in similar toss up too, but I want to pair it up with a question, because you're kind of you're the youngin' of the bunch, right?
Yeah, for real.
And so in collaborating and crossing paths with Derek and Kurtis, how you mentioned something earlier about stretching and about challenging, and it reminded me of a conversation I was having the other day with my son. He's 9 years old, and it really challenged me in what he was saying. And I'll save the story for another time, but I want to ask you about being around other people that are striving not just for excellence in what they do as far as music is concerned, but life in general, and how that impacts you, being around other people that stretch you, that challenge you musically, character wise, the whole 9 yards. Like, what would you say that has been like to cross paths with some fellas who you guys are now working together a lot closer than you were before, right? A lot closer than you were before. What's that process been like?
Yeah, no, I think that process, that goal of having people that you can really be honest with and they can call out your problems, you can call out their problems, and you know each other for who they really are and not for just your idea of how you want someone to be. I think a lot of times for bands or business partners or whatever it is, or a collective of artists like we are, it's easy to like have these dreams and just smooth over any differences or difficulties because you just want the dream to come true. But it's not a foundation to build on. And so something that I think I've been so thankful for with us, and that I think everyone should have their first goal when it comes to having a band or a collective, is to be able to really take care of the relationships with each other and to be able to be honest, because yeah, that foundation is what leads to the type of genuine care for each other that will lead to when money is a problem or when conflicting visions a problem. You eventually get over it. It's not that you don't have the problems, because you will, but you're able to get past it. So yeah, I'm definitely really thankful for both of these guys because I think we all bring something very different to the table. We're all from really different backgrounds in a lot of ways, and that ultimately leads to the best songs. If we're talking about, I think from a song creation standpoint and message, the fact that we're able to approach one concept, like our last song, Clean Heart, which is a song about confession and being honest with other people and with God about what's wrong with us. We're able to approach that from 3 different angles, rather than if we weren't able to work together, it would just be my story, my experience on that, and not have them to communicate like different sides of a diamond, basically, that light can reflect through. So
Absolutely.
Different facets.
For real. Yeah,
Absolutely. That's great. Hey, and speaking of, go ahead,
I
bro.
was just going to add, my mom had said something about Kurtis and I the other day that kind of stretches, because Kurtis asked me that question for a reason. As far as what are you talking about? We have in-depth conversations. My mom related Kurtis to kind of like a John. Like Kurtis just knows that God loves him. He does. And God, it blesses him. And I admire that, just because he's been paving a way in his Christian spot. So a lot of people have already addressed him saying that's not Christian. And so kind of like built up, he's already built up a resolve to the point of knowing that God is using this. You know what I mean? So he doesn't really respond to a lot of that.
Sure.
And there's a confidence in that, and I like that. I admire that. My mom related me to kind of like a Peter, who had denied Christ, and has this guilt on him. And Christ had to say, "Peter, do you love me?" 3 times. I'm like fighting to just get it right. And Spencer's kind of like a mediator between both of us. So, it just stretches us for sure.
And one thing I would say when I say, like, the question is like, what would we change within the industry, right? It's hard for me to look at the industry and say I would change the fact that people don't all make music about God, right? Because that's impossible, basically, right? Because there's people making music that have no idea who God is.
Sure.
Right. So I would say to expect someone to make a song about God who has no relationship with the Lord is impossible. Right. So to say like everyone should be making music for the right reason would be hard to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also believe that people should be able to freely make their art.
Sure.
Right? Because I think that's what God does for us, right? We are free to be who God's called us to be, whether they know he's giving them that freedom or not.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if someone's going to worship God, I want them to freely worship God.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if somebody wants to make art, I want them to freely make their art.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't want is for the industry to control the type of art that they're making.
Yeah.
Right? The control is what I'm against. Would I love for every person who makes music to come to know the Lord? With all my heart, would I love that? But I don't. The only way I know how to make that happen would be through being who God called me to be and to have an impact on someone's life, one person at a time.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And yes, and then you got people like the Biebers, like the Kanye before a little recently. You know what I'm saying? Like that go, and the devil will take someone and give them a platform. And then because they've gotten that platform in front of the masses, God can be like, boop, you're going to be a spokesperson for me. Right? You're going to speak on my behalf. You're going to change the culture. You're going to do these types of things. Cause I think God's plan is perfect, you know? So when I look at it, I don't think of how can I stop people from making the music that they're making?
Yeah.
More how can I impact, or how can I get that opportunity to make that impact? But if the industry is silencing us,
Yeah, I hear you.
Then you can't be a game changer. You can't be moving the needle if they're not letting the voice get heard. You know?
Yeah, I hear you. No, thanks for the transparency on that.
Man, I gotta you know, as far as that goes, I guess my focus isn't on here. It's on the eternal reward. You know, being light and salt and tearing down all the idols in all genres. I know how much it took me off the beaten path, or off the right path, onto the beaten path, onto the wide road, and how lost I was, and how many friends I've lost, how many friends are no longer here. And it scares me to death to think that could happen to my kids. So it's like, I got to get this right. And I do like the free will that God has given us, because you don't want to force somebody to love you. But just, I would say, to demolish all the idolization, like, because there's only one that deserves that worship. When I stage before, in front of thousands of people, opening up for like Lil Wayne or something, I would want the biggest high that I had was a whole bunch of people either saying my music or shouting or raising their hands, and it was like they were worshiping me, getting an autograph from me, picture with me. And I want to put the worship where it belongs, because at the end of this, we could get all the success we want, whatever genre we're in, and it means nothing if we don't pass this test and get the kingdom of God.
Yeah, I hear you. When I heard you saying that, I think what I hear coming out from you is, doesn't matter where it's coming from. If there's idolatry in the faith-based sector, if it's in the secular sector, then it's misplaced. Doesn't belong there. Needs to get tore down. Is that right?
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I feel you. You know, regardless of what's happening out there, you know, one thing that I can admire about you guys, regardless of pushback, regardless of, you know, constraints that might get put up against you based on whatever it is, you guys are constantly working on stuff. You're constantly pushing stuff out there. You're constantly moving to make your own mark on the planet, and for the purposes that you feel destined to do that for. And I want to talk about any upcoming projects that you got on the works right now, because you guys are constantly dropping music. I think, Spencer, you had your own challenge where you were trying to drop something every month or every other week or something like that.
Yeah.
What else
every
you guys
other
got
week.
on the docket as far as upcoming projects that are concerned, or events that are coming up?
There
Chris.
we go.
I have So we just released an Upside Down Kingdom single called Clean Heart, right? And for me, that was like something that I wanted to do. Well, we wanted to do together and to be a part of together with the boys and with the ministry that God's growing out here. And at this point now, for the next few months, I'm moving I'm releasing an album this year. My first album since I became Kurtis Hoppie, which is my real name. So I've always been Kurtis Hoppie. So I'm going to be releasing 4 singles and then an album. And my first single drops on the 16th. Nice. Plus I have some like secret songs releasing under my old name, which I actually have one releasing tonight, but I'm just doing it all pretty much under the radar. So there's a new song dropping on 333 tonight for the first time since 2018, but it's only for the people who just stumble upon it. And then on the 16th, I have a song releasing called Vine. And I've actually never told anyone other than my close circle who it's with, but here it is. The Boise Beat exclusive.
Here it is.
So I'm releasing the 16th, February 16th, Vine featuring Miles Minnick. Nice. Coming up. And so that's gonna be the first single off the album. And then I've got 3 more singles, and then it's the cool part about it too is I've noticed that cover art doesn't really have like a big thing anymore, stuff like that. So I really wanted to lean into the art. Especially since everything is all singles, everything's so fast. And I just felt like, doing something different than what the rest of the world's doing right now. So I'm dropping 4 singles and album, and what's going to be so cool about it is each single is going to be like a little puzzle piece that once the 4th single drops, you can actually put them together and it creates the full album cover.
Oh, that's what's up. That's cool.
And then the album is the Kurtis Hoppie LP.
Okay.
Shooting for May. We'll see if I can get everything mixed and mastered and prepared. And nice. It's definitely the best piece of work that I've done in my entire life. And okay. I think it's very transparent. It's very unique. The sounds, like I said, like my sound is what I'm feeling in the moment, the way God's calling me to make it at that time. So when you listen through this thing, it's like a movie in itself, because it doesn't really just stick to like one beat style, one sound. It moves as you go across. It's like as I was doing that, I was like, it's like the DNA. It's like the DNA of the music that lives within me, and the story of God in my life. And it's really special, and I'm really excited for everyone to hear it. And I believe that it's going to it's a sacrifice. It's something I'm laying on the altar for God to grab a hold of and do whatever he wants with it. And I'm praying that it's going to impact many lives to have not only just some good music, but something that can really draw them closer to the Father,
Yeah, that's what's up. You've been putting in work, man. So one dropping tonight, Vine on the 16th, featuring Miles Minnick, and then hopefully the Kurtis Hoppie LP drop in sometime in May, if all goes well.
Mid-May is the goal. At the latest, I would say June. But yeah, that's my album, and then after that, I think we have some. I'm hoping. I don't know if this is what everybody's thinking, but really trying to build an epic like EP for Upside Down Kingdoms.
Nice. How about you, Spencer? Derek, anything on the docket you want to share as far as upcoming projects, events you're going to be a part of, anything like that?
Go ahead, Spence.
I was going to say, yeah, we should totally plug what's happening a week and a half from right now. Although I'm not sure when this is going to air, but it will be before this event, which is on February 10th. So it's called Rise Up. It's in Boise, Idaho, at Capitol Church. yeah, this event we were excited about. It started with this kid that I know. His senior project was to throw a concert, and so he just started reaching out to people, and over time it just kind of grew, and now there's this whole team of people that are working to put together this event. And but huge shout out to this kid. His name's Eli. He's in high school.
Wow.
It's wild to think about.
Yeah. So high school senior project, and he decided he wants to put a company together that's able to spearhead events, huh? That's cool.
Yeah. He's killing it. He's killing it right now. Mixing and mastering, throwing events, all of that.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Soup is about to be crazy. Before I say anything about my own music, I just heard the Kurtis Hoppie LP for the first time on our way up to go snowboarding, and it's fire.
Nice.
Definitely check it out.
Nice. That's what's up.
But I am looking forward to more Upside Down Kingdoms releases. We have a lot of collaborations together, so just picking through those, sifting through them, and I'm really excited about the next one we got coming up. I believe it's going to be Pirate Cove. Extremely excited about that single. I have a single releasing February 9th. So it's entitled Rich Man. And it's just about tearing down the idols. It's about the rich man that came to Jesus and asked him, what do I got to do to inherit the kingdom? And he said, don't commit adultery, don't steal, don't lie, don't murder people. And he said, well, I've done all of these things. He said, well, give away your stuff to the poor and or sell all your stuff, give it to the poor, give the proceeds to the poor and come and follow me. And he went away and wept bitterly because he had many things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I had gotten this distribution deal through OVA. Shout out OVA. Kurtis had made that happen, kind of bridged that gap. And there's a lot of songs that I have ready to release this year, but I felt like this was an offering to God. I felt like it couldn't start with anything other than Rich Man, just a vertical, just vertical worship. So a lot of songs dropping this year, trying to drop at least one song a month. I've been challenged by my brothers to do that, and then probably follow that up with an EP and an album. But one single at a time.
Yeah, that's what's up. Well, thanks, fellas. I want to give you a big shout out to yourselves. Thank you for jumping on here and joining me. It's been a pleasure, and we're looking forward to all the music that you're going to be dropping out here in the near future. This year, 2024, sounds like it's going to be a breakout year for all three of you with all the stuff that you're putting out. So props to you guys. Much love, and thanks for joining me. And if you're tuning into this right now, you've just tuned in to Backstage Pass on the Boise Beat. My name is Gordie Tamayo. Until next time.